Hello, everyone. Today we are going to discuss how to research. This is a very important topic for college students, and so I have highlighted some key points for you all to follow. First of all, if you are listening to this, it is because you are a scholar. You are expected to be a scholar, whether you like it or not. That means that you inquire, you question things, you critically question things, you learn, you research, and test your ideas. And after you absorb all the information, you create new theories. You're a scholar. You are interested in finding out answers and starting new problems. All right. Now, of course, you do not plagiarize work. All right. You go and you find out information and you cite appropriately, whether that's using something like MLA style or APA style. Okay. Let's start with one of the basic questions that many of you have. How do I know if what I am looking at is a reliable source or not? First, check your research against your own reality, because let's consider what the great educator Paulo Freire said about education. He said that pure objective theory mythicizes reality. All right, what does that mean? He believed, okay, that if you believed only in pure objective theory, you were actually following a lie. And in a nutshell, what he meant by that was that if what you are doing is simply obeying instructions, looking at information, and, because let's say, for example, the person holds a PhD or a JD or an EDD, and you automatically believe that that is truth, he believes you have taken the humanity, you have taken the human beingness out of truth, because truth also includes you, your own subjective perspective. You should therefore be passionate, first and foremost, about your project. That means that, you should choose or narrow your topic. If you are given a topic, you should narrow your topic to something that truly interests you, that you want to write about. This is a very big part of subjectivity. That is your own personal reality. Okay, so that means when you are given a research assignment, really think about how can you make it interesting for yourself, for you as a human being. What are your interests, right? Okay, now this, of course, leads us to the next point, which is you must know yourself, all right? That is how you will also know how to test the research and whether it is valid or not, right? You will know whether you're looking at something that's somewhat reliable or not if you have critically questioned yourself, all right? But let's also remember Paulo Freire, he did not believe that pure subjectivity, your own personal opinion, was the total answer either. He believed in joining subjective and objective in a constant dialectical. That's a constant conversation. Okay, all right? And you learn about yourself by, of course, experiencing the totality of life, critically thinking, reading a variety of material, especially material that deals with the universal human condition, right? And when you read that, then when you read someone else's work, you can tell whether they're dealing with the roots of the human condition or not, okay? All right? You do not, of course, and this is the objective warning that I have for you, you do not substitute intellectualism for life. But you do value ideas for what they are worth. And in a research paper, you are interested in important ideas. All right? Let's move on then to another question that many of you have. How do I know whether the source has a bias or not? All sources have bias, okay? There is no such thing as a source without bias. The data that you look at has a bias that is attached to it, all right? The statistics that you study have a bias. They were created by human beings, all right? And all human beings have a subjective part to them, all right? I would argue that even algorithms right now, the way that we understand computer algorithms have biases to them. How? Because some computer engineer developed those algorithms. And that computer engineer at this stage in our development is still a human being. Okay, so all sources have bias. The question you should ask is this: how conscious is the source of its own bias? How honest are they with their bias? How do they, for example, confront counter arguments? Okay. After you've compiled your research and you're still questioning, wow, should I use this source or not? One good way to think about whether you should use a source is you should check the author's credentials. All right. What else have they written? What's their formal education look like, right? What have they contributed to? How long have they been involved in the field, right? Do they have any recommendations by other noteworthy authors, researchers? Okay, all right. And so I guess we can question. You can question me right now, right? How is it that this person is giving me this information? Well, hopefully you're looking at this video and you know a little bit about me, but if you don't, I'll introduce myself. My name is Benjamin Bach Sierra. You can research about me, right? I hold a bachelor's degree from UC Berkeley. I completed a teaching credential program and also a Master of Arts in creative writing, English, and I hold a Juris Doctor degree from the University of California, Hastings College of the Law. I have been teaching for over 20 years. I started teaching at the high school level, and throughout the years, I've taught from time to time in high school programs. But the bulk of my teaching experience has been at the college level. I have been teaching at City College of San Francisco for 19 years. I have lectured at many different university institutions: San Francisco State University, UC Berkeley, UC Hastings, Golden Gate University, the University of North Dakota, et cetera, et cetera. I can keep going. And so those are some of my scholar credentials to be able to give you this lecture, okay? All right, so check your source, right? Check your source. Now, where to research? Where can you get material that you can use for your papers, okay? All right, for your research project, all right? Now, I'm going to go through, not a list that is total, but I'm going to go to some of the more popular sources. You can go to books, libraries, search the internet, read newspapers, magazines. You can conduct your own interviews, okay? All right? Let's look at each one of these sources briefly. Books. Books are the traditional source where you would get your material. In the past, this was usually the only game in town. Books are a very important and valuable pieces of research because they are written by an expert in the field, and they sustain the topic for a period of a time, right? So for example, it took the author, 2 years to write a book. So that somewhat shows that they're dedicated to the subject matter, right? And they wrote about the subject matter for, 300 pages. All right, okay? Libraries are great sources to get started. All right, in libraries, you can go and ask a librarian. I would suggest, in fact, that you all go to your library, call your library, or go online and search around your library's website for all of its valuable information and resources, okay? They can help guide you. Librarians are professional researchers. So if you have your prompt, if you've if you're just starting or you've already narrowed down your prompt, please go to your library, your librarian, your especially your college librarian, your university librarian, and ask them how they would go about researching about your specific topic. You can, of course, go on the internet and find information, but you as well as I know that the internet is an extremely grand, almost seems infinite type of source, right? And so you can research on the internet, but many times what will happen is you may be overwhelmed by the material that comes back to you. And then we have to understand that the internet holds lots of different purposes. Some of them are commercial purposes, so they're trying to tell you something, right? Some of them are governmental sources. Some of them are attached to educational institutions. Some of them are personal people's blogs, right? Okay, so the amount of information can seem overwhelming, right? But the internet is a source as well, all right? You can go to newspapers and magazines. I'm going to lump these both together, right? Newspapers and magazines are sources where you can find general information. And very important about both newspapers and magazines, you can find current information about a certain topic, right? So that is contemporary information. So today is April It is April, the year 2020, and I can find out what happened yesterday. A scholarly article is not going to give me that information, right? Newspapers and magazines will quote politicians, will quote regular people on the streets, will quote world leaders, etc., right? And so they have their benefits to them, right? Okay. I want to talk about a source that you can find online that many of you are accustomed to using for general information. And right now, I'm talking about Wikipedia or other similar encyclopedia sites. Now, let's start off with this. First of all, you cannot use Wikipedia as a source in your own research project, all right? Wikipedia is not considered a scholarly source. It is an encyclopedia type of source, although it is expanded much beyond any type of encyclopedia my generation knew of when I was growing up, right? Because the encyclopedia at that time, if you had an article about, let's say, for example, San Francisco, it would only be perhaps a couple of paragraphs long, whereas the topic of San Francisco on Wikipedia, if you printed it out, is probably 50 pages in length, if not more, right? And there are many resources on it. However, you cannot, and I just want to repeat this, okay? You cannot use Wikipedia as a source in your own research paper, okay? But let's talk about how you can use Wikipedia, all right? Wikipedia will give you general information about a topic, and it will give you that information in an understandable manner, okay? It uses Wikipedia's articles, use a language that is understandable, I think, to most high school graduates. Wikipedia is meant for general absorption about the topic. Can you rely on that source? No, you cannot. Okay, all right? You should not rely on this source as a fact, okay? But if you are more interested in any of the ideas that are offered in something like a Wikipedia article, you can research that, because most Wikipedia articles will offer you at the end of that particular article, it will offer you its references. That means that you can scroll down to the end of Wikipedia and look at where the article is getting its information. From there, you may be able to use something in your own paper. Not by citing Wikipedia, but perhaps by citing one of Wikipedia's references. Also, something like Wikipedia, right? Reading an article from there will give you terms associated with your subject matter. And the article may also give you the names of prominent people in the field. And then, so once you know certain terms, right, you can use those terms in your search strings when you are looking at something like a scholarly database, right? If you know someone's name that they are mentioning inside of an article, right, and this supposedly is someone who has led the field, right, okay, then you can research about that person online. You could research about that person in a database, okay? So let's just summarize the idea regarding Wikipedia. It will give you some good general information, perhaps to help start you off with your research. Okay? Now, let's move on and let's talk briefly about the difference between journalists and scholars. Journalists can be, of course, extremely intelligent people. They are critical thinkers that write to a general audience. Okay? Now note, let's understand that journalists are limited in their exposure of the material because they have space and word limitations, right? And why am I bringing up journalists? Because journalists are many times the people who write the magazine or the newspaper articles. Something else about a journalist, if they are writing to a newspaper or magazine, for a newspaper or magazine, then we must understand that they are corporate linked. Okay, now this shouldn't immediately cause you concern that you should not use it, the information, because the information can be valid, the information can be good, but you should understand that there is a commercial bias, right, and a corporate link attached to that information. Okay, now scholars are not writing to a general audience. Scholars are experts who are writing to other experts. Their writing has been peer reviewed, which means this: before they send out that article, they have other experts edit and comment on that article. Okay, and this scholar that is writing the article knows that the article that she sends out is going to be critically reviewed because the people reading the article are experts. It may take a year or more for their paper to be published. Usually, scholars' work is not corporate linked. Although this is changing more and more nowadays, because many corporations end up backing research. Many times corporations back research, right? So you can learn more about that on your own. But scholarly work is usually connected to university research institutions. Okay, now for your upper division college courses, you will have to mostly rely on scholarly articles. Okay, I can't speak of you about specifically your specific research paper, right? You must listen to your professor, right? And see whether your professor is allowing, newspaper articles, interviews, etc., or do they want just scholarly articles, all right? I know that for your upper division college courses, you will have to mostly rely on scholarly articles. What are scholarly articles? They are academic journals that serve as permanent and transparent forums for the presentation, scrutiny, and discussion of research. They are, as I said earlier, usually peer-reviewed. The content typically takes the form of articles presenting original research. It reviews articles and book reviews, right? The purpose of an academic journal, according to Henry Oldenburg, the first editor of Philosophical Transactions of the Royal Society, is to give research a venue. to impart their knowledge to one another and contribute what they can to the grand design of improving natural knowledge and perfecting all philosophical arts and sciences. Learn to use scholarly article databases. Your college, your local library should subscribe to scholarly article databases. I know at City College of San Francisco, we have library databases which include scholarly article databases. Now, these are paid subscriptions. So the college pays for these databases, and these databases hold scholarly work. So I want to compare and contrast this to the internet, right? On the internet, you type something in like, let's say, for example, San Francisco, and you're going to get a bunch of commercial sources. You're going to get, blogs. You're going to get history. You're going to get just probably a billion search results, right? Okay. If you search in a scholarly article database, you are going to get scholarly articles about the subject matter. So, for your research, I would recommend to learn how to use scholarly article databases. How can you do this? At City College of San Francisco, you can attend and sign up for online library skills workshops to learn how to do important activities, such as specifically learning to use search strings to better access databases. Okay, all right? And you will also learn how to access databases. Learn which database you could find information that you want, all right? So hopefully your college or your university will also have something like an online library skills workshop so that you can learn to better access information that will help you with your research paper. Okay, that is all. Have a great day. Take care.